it was like a two-part game, right? The people that were still in the game on the island were saying if anybody comes from the edge, we need to get them right out of here again, because that's not really the game of Survivor. They don't have to deal with the strategies. They don't have to deal with the blind sides. They don't have to form these bonds with us that they have to break. They're over there forming genuine bonds. And that's no good for Survivor at the end, because they're going to get the votes when they form genuine bonds that they're not. We're forming bonds sneakily and fake and false bonds that we need to move forward in the game. We're not forming the same bonds she's building out of hardships. So when she came in, we said, she's got to go. She just got to go. She just got to go. And we kept saying that, especially being that she was first voted out. And then when she comes in with security, we were like, oh, this is baloney. They're going to bring somebody back 5 days left of this game with security. That's just, to us, we felt that if you are going to give them a second chance and allow them to get into the game that late into the game, let them work for it. Let them try to find a hole or a crack in the alliance. And if there is no hole or crack, let them try to make a crack. Let them create the crack. And if they can do so and they survive the tribal, good for them. They worked for it.
Previously on the top 100 greatest survivors.
One of the most underrated breakout seasons for cast members.
Respect for that move, right? That's how you play Survivor.
He's a huge, he's a teddy bear. He's a really nice guy.
Nobody wanted to play with me, and I still want $1 million.
I called him the enforcer.
I really liked Lex. I thought Lex was, kind of a cool dude.
One of the most overlooked winners in all of Survivor.
And I said, Ethan, you've got to be kidding me.
He was larger in life in Pearl Islands for sure.
Who would have thought, right? Cochran.
And now, the countdown to number 1 continues. The greatest game on television, and these its most respected players.
Who is your number 1?
The number 1 spot.
Number 1 spot.
Who deserves to be number 1?
It's impossible to pick one that's the greatest survivor of all time.
It's time to celebrate the castaways, the legends.
The number 1 survivor of all time has to be...
This is the top 100 greatest survivors.
I appreciate it. Jerri went through a bit of a transformation on All Stars, or maybe it wasn't my show, but I watched her on. But anyway, she, because I went through a bit of a transformation trying to understand who I was, and I think she came through as more of a solemn player. She really does. She cared a lot.
Jerri had the best arc in Survivor history. There's no doubt about it. She went from the Black Widow, the evil woman who all-American hero cowboy Colby absolutely can't stand. She's starting fights with everybody on her tribe.
I think it takes a strong person to do that, quite honestly, especially when there's obviously, some attraction between us. Where to, cowboy?
I don't know. We'll head this way. Who knows where the heck we're going?
Jerri. That knock you keep hearing on your door, it's checkout time.
Jerri, tribe has spoken.
Jerri is a bitch. She is. But she's a bitch that will be laughing all the way to the bank.
She goes from that to being booed off the stage at All Stars, only wanting to beat Colby. Really, people couldn't stand her so much. She's the reason Boston Rob and Amber end up getting married, because if Lex was smart in that moment and could have just put his feelings for Jerri aside, Amber goes home. All Stars isn't what it is.
Jerri doesn't really have a huge work ethic. And when you get a bad seed in the team, man, it brings it down. And I don't even mean a bad seed as much as just an annoying seed. So that's grating on people. And I know it drives Colby up the yin-yang.
I'm trying to convince Kathy that instead of Rich, it's Colby. My own personal reasons. Some revenge involved, for sure.
7th person voted out of the tribe. Colby.
This whole thing is making me so sick. Okay?
You know what? We've got 2,000 armchair survivors out there.
No, I've got to say something.
Say it.
This show is a show about entertainment. This entertainment is coming at a price. What it has cost us, our friendships, our feelings, our pain, our suffering.
Wait, Jerri.
Our entertainment.
And then she ends up being pretty much one of the biggest heroes on Heroes versus Villains. Despite being a villain, she was more heroic than almost any of the heroes on that season. And she was definitely more heroic than any of the villains. So
I never thought I'd say this. Jerri Manthey is the most level-headed out of the entire villain tribe. She's got a cool vibe about her, man. She's really chilled out in the last few years, and we're getting along fine.
16th person voted out and the 8th member of our jury, Colby.
Colby, my favorite cowboy.
Oh, Colby.
Colby. My outback comrade.
it's one of the best arcs in Survivor history, and definitely one of the top, I would say, 2 or 3 most iconic females in the history of the show for sure.
I think I had quite a few people that inspired me how to play. The Iceman, come on, Heidik, you know, just the way that he controlled the game.
What skills come into play at this part of the game? Skating skills. Who's the best skater? Ice skater. Who's got the longest skates on? Who's the best at cutting corners, going around circles? Because usually on skating, you gotta be ice cold. You can't lose your cool. You gotta be like ice. You're gonna have friendships, you gotta cut off those friendships. You gotta keep stringing people along and bam, throw them a nice slider. Mr. Freeze is in the house.
He wasn't afraid to take charge, which nowadays I feel like a lot of people feel threatened to do that. But he had an ability to do it in a way where you didn't really see him as taking charge. He's really a master manipulator. Like, he mentally and physically dominated the game the whole season. Like, I knew he was going to win as soon as I got voted out.
Brian definitely, there's one episode in my season where he says, he goes through his fingers. He's like, I have my loyal soldier. I can't remember what the other 2 were, but he goes through basically the people who are on his side and people who are in his alliance, and it worked out for him, man. I think he played a really, really good game, and nobody really saw the guy coming. And he also wasn't hated. Like, people weren't upset with him. He was just kind of a low-key dude who made it all work out for him.
Guys, for the last time, immunity is back up for grabs. Sit down, guys. Have a seat. Stretch it out.
Ready to go, Brian. Time to go.
Okay. Everyone going?
Yeah.
Cheers, Brian. The winner of Survivor Thailand.
I think Brian played a great game because it worked for him. But if you would have got one or 2 of those girls aggravated at him, and you could have went to him, you could have burned his bridge. You know, he'd have never made the Final 4 or something like that. But no, he played. He told everybody what they wanted to hear, and it worked. And I'm telling you, he had them believing. But that's the way it went. And, I'm happy. Of course, I wanted $1 million, but I was happy with the 100,000 and all the other stuff that come along with it.
Brian.
All I can say about Natalie is that she's a challenge beast. She's just insanely strong.
So I was gonna play this for myself tonight, but idols are more fun when you play them for somebody else. Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? I'm playing this for Jack.
Okay. Jacqueline, does not count.
Jacqueline does not count. Jacqueline does not count. 13th person voted out and the 7th member of our jury, Baylor.
The fact that I was able to navigate through this without the one comfort I've had my entire life, which is Nadia, and I was able to do this on my own makes me really proud. And I know my parents will be proud too because they feel like we can't do anything without each other. Now I need to really work through what I'm going to say to the jury. I don't want to leave having any regrets about this final tribal. I can't leave anything up to fate. I gotta do the jury's job for them. I gotta make them see why they need to pick me and why I deserve to be the sole survivor.
The winner of Survivor San Juan del Sur,
So I think overall in Winners at War, I played with Natalie maybe 6 days. I think she was there at the final 4 days and then potentially at maybe 2 days in the beginning. So I didn't get to play with Natalie that much, but I will say that when I was playing with her, I was playing with her fully in. I mean, we were as locked and loaded as you could be in an alliance in both the first 2 days and the last 4. So we were super plugged in as a pair. And I think the great thing about Natalie, which is something that I lack and that I wish that I could potentially have in my future games, is that she's so unapologetically herself. She just goes for what she wants so fearlessly. She says what she wants to happen without saying, I need to sugarcoat this. I think she just goes in boldly and just attacks and says, I want this and I'm gonna go do it. And, you know, I tiptoe my way to the end, hoping that I don't piss anybody off. And she says, I'm gonna piss off as many people as I need to in order to get to the end, and I'll apologize later. And so I just love that she's just herself.
She's got it! Natalie has earned her way back into this game!
I left this camp day 2, and it's unreal that I'm even saying this, but I made it back on Survivor.
Natalie has won individual immunity and has come all the way back.
I was able to duke it out with the best of the best, and I came out on top. So I'm going to be confident, be proud, and prove that I deserve this $2 million.
But I watched a handful of seasons, and of the handful of seasons that I watched, the one that I liked the most because I thought I related the most to him was Wendell.
I went to UPenn Law, top 10 law school, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. So I followed my passion. I took off the suit, and now I'm a freelance furniture designer. So I am more than I appear. There's this guy, Dom. He's a construction worker, and I took to that. I just started feeling good vibes from him. He just seems like a friendly guy that I would work with.
Wendell is masterful social player, okay? He's so good at it that people don't even realize he's playing the social game. He's just so good at making people feel comfortable. You know, if there's a player in the game that's kind of missing home or feeling like they're out of sorts, Wendell was always very good at being their big brother, or, you know, being some type of person that they could lean on. And they didn't even realize, you know, that it was even gameplay. And in life, it's not. That's the kind of guy Wendell is in life. But in the game, it just was so natural for him to do that, and therefore people were magnetized to him.
What I find, thank you, Lord.
Wendell takes his time for the win! And he does it!
Proud of you, man. You can do it. You know you can. Congratulations. You've earned the same second chance advantage.
Jeff Probst! What? I think I'm done, bro! Wendell wins individual immunity! And out of nowhere, Wendell quietly builds the pyramid that guarantees him a spot in the Final Four. And there it is. Wendell makes fire.
We were like, what's Wendell doing? Who is he aligned with? We don't know. But what he would do is go to his alliance members. They developed a plan and he trusted them, and he knew that they trusted him. So that was one thing with Wendell, was if you weren't in his alliance, you knew, because you were like, shit, I don't know who he's gonna vote out, but whoever he's voting out, I'm sure he has people voting with him. Now I'm confused.
in my mind, Wendell was the one person I could trust 100%. And I know that I could be there with him. Excuse me. I knew that I could play with Wendell until the very end, and we could trust each other. And in a game like Winners at War, if you can find that, I mean, that's a sign of him being a great player, and that's something that you can't let go of.
He just has this very calm demeanor about him that I think people automatically trust, and that makes him really lovable. And I think that's a great trait to have in Survivor.
Day 39. Oh my goodness. As a super fan, this has been a dream of mine for a decade pretty much. It's great. It's the best feeling in the world. But there's still work to be done.
She is a therapist by trade, and she takes all of those keys in life and brings them onto the island. And I don't think people get that on TV as much as you see it in person. And so I think the reason why Denise is so successful at what she does is because she is never the threat. She is always someone's buddy.
I'm a licensed sex therapist, so being a therapist, I'm really curious about Zane because at first you go, God, this guy's trouble. But then you look closer and you go, okay, wait a minute, look closer at those tattoos. He's lost somebody. There's a death date of somebody on his arm, and he's got the Serenity Prayer on his hands. So part of me is kind of hoping, this guy's got some story. And if nothing else, I'm curious about his story.
This is such a lovely human. She's just wonderful. I mean, she didn't want to work with me, which is tragic, but that's not her own fault. That's, that's a whole separate podcast. But I think in general, she's just super scrappy, super lovable. She kind of can connect with anybody about anything, and you don't really feel like you have to hold back and maybe not say something. She'll judge you. She's just not judgmental at all, and really, really sweet.
It was great to hike up to the cliff this morning, to have the three of us and just to sit up here and have a different perspective. Here I am, this little old sex therapist from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that everybody thinks is probably going to float on coattails, who actually has played some strategy. And I feel like I'm thriving.
Denise is a workhorse. She, when you're playing with her and she's constantly making sure that everybody's okay, constantly making sure that, things are taken care of. She's a big mama bear. She's a force to be reckoned with. Her and I have both big personalities, and I'm a very intuitional person, and I knew from the get-go that, from the moment that I met her on Ponderosa, we didn't even get to talk, but from just watching her body language, I knew that she was going to be someone that I was gonna, have to defeat in order to win. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about Denise. I mean, she dethroned my favorite player in the game, Sandra the Queen. I mean, nothing but props to Denise. Her and I had our moments, but it's all because we had a similar end goal. I have nothing but respect for her. She's a force to be reckoned with, 100%. Yeah.
The winner of Survivor Philippines, Denise.
What he was able to do is he took the outcasts from his tribe. He took the scrawny, small waitress from New York, and he took Amanda, who shouldn't have been an outcast, but kind of had the social game that wasn't all there right away, and takes James the Gravedigger, and he goes up against these huge powerhouse players like John Robert, and he took total control, though, of the game.
I'm a huge fan of this next player. They're one of my favorites, and I am honored that I get to speak about them. Ladies and gents, internet, my name is Peridiam, and next up on the list, we have Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China. I don't think anyone is surprised to see Todd in this ranking at this high up on the list. He's a fantastic player, one of the most unique. He played a very practical game, almost perfectly set up to the T. He formed strong bonds in the early game with Amanda and Aaron to keep him safe, but also called the shots. He won other players over, such as Leslie and James, and eventually Courtney, and even kind of put Jean Robert in his place. He was the conduit of information flow, receiving many a clue as he neared closer to the merge, and even pulled off a flashy, big move by kidnapping James, giving him an idol, and teaching him how to pull off the art of a blindside.
I know what it is. What is it? I'll tell you tomorrow. You're going to tell me tomorrow? I can't open it till tomorrow. You can open it tonight, but give it to me tomorrow, and I will help save you. I promise. I've got a whole plan. What? Yeah. Kill me and stuff, okay? That's love, baby. Make you strong.
Of course, perhaps it was a bit too flashy in the end, as it turned James into a massive obstacle down the road, but nevertheless, Todd was crafty and always one step ahead of his opposition. He kept his friends close, and his enemies far behind him, peddling their little hearts out.
And, you know, I acted all interested when Jamie told me that she knew who had the hidden immunity idols and that she was going to tell me, but she made it sound like someone from their tribe has one and someone from our tribe has one. Wow, does she have to catch up? So, she's on the small bike in the back, you know? Just pedaling as fast as she can.
Todd never won immunity and never played an idol, yet still played from ahead all season. He never managed to be the biggest threat to win in the room and displayed what I considered to be the greatest final tribal council performance in US Survivor. And like real talk, to have all of this, everything I just said going for you as a one-time player and winner, yeah, he's for sure one of the greats.
I think what drew people to Todd, like he was a good player. He's manipulative, but in like a way they were kind of cheering for him. He really knew the game better than anyone. Like I didn't know anything about Survivor, so I knew a lot about people, and he knew a lot about Survivor. So I think that's why together we were really good. And he was like, he had this like magic about him that even if he did something, you were like, aw, you got me, you know? And that's kind of how everyone felt about him. Like we all left, you know, like he won our season. No one was upset with him. We all were like, good game, little toddlers. You're adorable. And here's the other thing is it meant so much to him. Like he won like in his high school something like most likely to go on Survivor, and like he used to go to fan events and all this stuff. So like that even everyone playing against him, literally playing against him, we're all like, oh man, should we just give it to him? Yeah, like.
I'll read the last vote. Winner of Survivor China.
There are two winners in the history of Survivor who have only played the game once that you could make the argument are actually the best player of all time. Chris Daugherty is one of those players.
Chris, you on the other hand, you shocked me. You shocked me. Whereas I knew Twyla was going to be a deceptive lying bitch, I did not know that you were a deceptive lying bitch too.
Eliza, when I made that pact with you standing there, I didn't intend to do you wrong. I did it as strategy, and you're right. I owe you an apology. I broke our pact, and I am sorry.
Chris, you definitely screwed me over, and you definitely hurt my feelings. But ultimately, I like you better. I just wish I was the one sitting there next to you. I hope you win.
So Chris won my first season of Survivor, and he was an excellent social player. He clearly was able to forge bonds with people that enabled him to get to the end, because it certainly wasn't his athletic prowess or puzzle, abilities that got him that far. But he was able to convince people and deceive people and convince them he was on their side, and then vote them out and get to the end.
What he pulled off in Survivor Vanuatu is absolutely incredible. He was the reason his tribe lost in the first challenge. He could not balance his way across the balance beam. He should have been outnumbered by the younger, skinnier dudes, and instead he comes up with the Fat Five, and that group goes through the entire pre-merge together. All of the men get decimated because of Amy Cusack and Leanne's great, incredible alliance, and yet Chris still is able to navigate that. He defines what Survivor is, which is overcoming odds, overcoming obstacles, and constantly just trying to get one more vote, be the last person standing. And at the end of the day, he gives the all-time greatest final tribal council performance. Easily should be considered one of the greatest players ever. I have him not just in my top 10, I have him in my top 5. I think he's that good, and I think that other people should appreciate that and see that Chris Daugherty deserves to be up there in that tier of just unbelievable Survivor players.
If unfortunately I get second place, being the last man in the game, that's an accomplishment in itself. I never dreamed I'd be where I'm at. No way. And it's still hard, you know? It doesn't quit. I guess it'll quit when I walk off this island and it's completely over.
The winner of Survivor Vanuatu.
I'll tell you what, out of that whole season, or out of all of the winners that have ever played more than once, Michelle's the only one that has not gotten voted out of the show. And not just winners, but like, yeah, I think out of everybody that's played more than once, she's never had her torch snuffed. I mean, honestly, that speaks volumes.
I'm putting it all on the line, and I hope that people can see that I'm not some timid girl who's glided along, but rather somebody who strategically made moves this whole game.
Michele started out ditzy and brainless, and she was just on the beauty island, and it was kind of like she was floating around, which a lot of people made the case that she did the whole way. Those people weren't there. The jury saw it very almost unanimously. The way we all saw was that Michele was getting stronger as the season went on. She found good alliances, she made good alliances, she stuck with her guns, she didn't betray anybody, she voted people out when she had to, and she won challenges towards the end of the game when she had to. Michele won our season legitimately and very easily.
The winner of Survivor, Michele.
I went into this feeling like so much pressure because I feel like I have something to prove. People were a bit surprised by my win when I was up against people who played bigger, flashier games than me.
The winner of Survivor, Michele.
And now to not have the numbers is the worst possible case scenario.
She's a great player, and that's why she was left out of all those votes, because we knew how dangerous she could be if we let her in on it. If we told Michele, hey, Michele, listen, we're going to go after Kim, or hey, Michele, we're going to go after Jeremy, or Michele, we're going to go after whoever we were going after, she would probably be the one to flip it on its head, and we didn't want that. So we were kind of scared of Michele because we knew she could get down and dirty when she needed to, and that's why we left her out. Not because she didn't know how to play. It's totally contrary to that. She does know how to play, and that's why we left her out.
She was very good at kind of just being personable with everybody, and those relationships go a long way. If Tony hadn't played such a dominating game, I think that Michele had a great shot at being our only two-time winner, despite, being on the wrong side of the vote pretty much all the time. So that just shows, how likable she is out there. And that just shows how there's definitely a huge part of the game of Survivor that you can't really, it doesn't really come across the TV as well as big moves. So that's the part of Survivor that Michelle's a master at.
My last season, I achieved the ultimate accomplishment by winning Survivor, but I got so much feedback that maybe I wasn't the most deserving person. It took something that was my biggest accomplishment and made it into one of my toughest moments in my life.
I don't care who you are, it's hard to make it to the end once. It's hard to make it to the end twice, especially on a season like that. So regardless if you can say, okay, but where's this move, where's that move, you didn't make any deciding votes, well, you're doing something right because you made it to the end. So, but yeah, Michelle's super fun. She's got a great personality, and you just respect her because like she will not take disrespect, and I respect that out of people. Like, don't be a doormat, and she's not. And so she's not going to let anybody wipe their feet on her, and she'll tell you, and that honestly earns respect. And she's not a people pleaser, like to the fact where she'll just tell you something to make you feel good. She'll tell you it because that's how she really feels. So yeah, her social game's on point for sure.
Every single day out here, I prove to myself that I think I am one of the very, very best in this game. I've been on the bottom, constantly having to fight my way out of it. And now here I am again in the final three. And I feel like this has closed a wound that has been open for me for a while. And I will go in tonight and make sure that I do my darndest to win.
When I look at another player who I considered, who doesn't get mentioned, but I consider to be a great player, was Earl Cole.
Always keep your guard up. You never know when people are trying to trick you. There's a lot of actors here, a lot of poker faces. This is my poker face.
And I think Earl laid low, but he still played a strategic game because he wasn't getting all the blood on his hands. He was letting other people feel like they was taking the charge, but he was really in charge. He had 2 immunity idols. He teamed up with the right person. He led his squad, you know. He played a really smart game. He aligned himself well.
The core alliance is myself, Cassandra, and Yao. But me and Cassandra talked about taking dreams to the top 4. And then we can just have the core 4. That's what they're called, the core 4.
I have Yao Man, I have Michele. They're all about the team. All you need is that one vote, and then who has all the power then? That would be me.
Is he good enough to take a good hand and play it well? He played his hand well. Earl did what he had to do to win. Earl's a good strategist, in my opinion.
The winner of Survivor Fever.
So yeah, so who do you think you would put up there as the greatest survivor of all time?
Colby Donaldson, of course, very athletic, iconic in Australia, the Outback, and did great things. Thought he should have won. Whole different story.
That trek let me know that this was for real. Ready? That was a long trek we had through deep sand with a lot of heavy equipment, and I was packing more weight than anyone else, so I was really struggling. It was a long trip, and that fired me up, because that is the quickest way to find out what people are made of. I really did bring the flag to serve as shelter, but, you know, don't get me wrong. When I wake up in the morning, there's 2 things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful I'm alive, and I'm thankful I'm a Texan.
He was cute as a button, and so it was always fun. It was just so stormy on All Stars. We were always getting soaked through the middle of the night, and he was always so caring as we were all like glommed onto each other, going, "Oh my God, this sucks." And Colby always had a really good attitude about it.
Elizabeth's out of the game. Colby. This is becoming a regular thing.
Hands and ankles. That's it.
Immunity. Sweet, baby. Got immunity, Colby.
Damn.
That's it. Immunity again for Colby. Well done. This has had a permanent home here for a while. Amber. Yeah. Colby continues his streak. You've just won immunity.
Obviously, I got hooked early, and then probably fell off a little bit after the first couple of seasons. But I think you couldn't help but be a little bit mesmerized with Colby in the second season. He did so well, and good-looking guy, and got to the end, and I don't know if he did the noble thing or not, but ended up choosing Tina because he loved Tina to the end, and she ended up winning, and that probably wasn't the smart move for him to win, but you just kind of had to admire the way he played the game.
This game means so much to me and is so important to me because of the level of difficulty, because it's been so tough to get to this point, and it has taken so much out of me, physically, emotionally, mentally. But that's why it means so much to win this game, because I have so much invested in it. I've been selfish in the way I've played. However, I'm choosing to go into the finals with Tina, and that's not a selfish move. Because if I was 100% selfish, I would choose to go in with Keith. I feel certain I probably could have won against Keith. I don't even know that I have a 50-50 shot against Tina.
The winner of Survivor, the Australian Outback.
Don't come in with an idol, especially one that we had no idea we were buying for her by giving her tokens. So that's why there was a lot of ill will towards the Edge. Had nothing to do with Natalie herself, but it had to do with the whole concept of the Edge and a person coming back 5 days left of the game. That was just that left a real bad taste in our mouth, and that's why we really didn't want the Edge person to be sitting there in the end in final three. We just didn't feel that was right. And then when she got more votes from Michele, it proved exactly to why the Edge concept sucks. Because again, Michele was in the game for 39 days, dodging bullets, weaving and dodging and playing and winning challenges to stay alive when we were trying to get her out. And Natalie's on the other side forming genuine bonds. And then she comes in with protection. So, and for her to get more votes than Michele, that was like, I didn't agree with that at all. But again, nothing to do with Natalie. She played her game. She did a good job. But it's just the concept in itself that we weren't happy with.
Next time on the top 100 greatest survivors. As the countdown to number 1 gets closer and closer, next week we present number 20 through 11. Amongst these 10 players, we have 5 winners and 5 non-winners. All 10, however, are some of Survivor's greatest, most iconic legends. Everyone ranked on next week's episode has played at least twice, and amongst them, we have 7 men and 3 women. What do you think about our list so far? Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and always stay tuned and keep hope alive.